How's it going, everyone? Jiivita here with another release video, this time for testing 210. This adds the long anticipated guild system along with interplanetary chatting, as well as some modifications to Footfall, so very nice update. Also, this video, as you probably noticed, is quite long, so check the description for a table of contents if you want to jump around. And once these features do go live, I'll do some shorter, more focused videos on the individual features. So a pretty awesome update, and addresses several long-standing issues such as, well, footfall and settlement identity, as the guild system will allow you to essentially protect your settlement identity with a few little kind of interesting quirks along the way. But anyway, let's get started and take a look at this awesome guild system. So we come over here, this is a guild control. It just seemed to beg to be put on top of a plinth, but you can of course just throw it on the ground. And if you're familiar, this is not just chicken scratch. These are Oortian glyphs, or they can be translated in other words. You can use boundlesscrafting.com if you want to translate this yourself. I won't ruin the surprise of what it actually says, but just know that some of these glyphs will translate into question marks according to that website, and if you just go ahead and change the question marks to R's, it makes a lot more sense. Also, these two glyphs down here are really faded at the bottom, so if you kind of take a screenshot and enhance it, it'll make this word right here make a lot more sense. But anyway, let's get down to business here. And yeah, I can open this up, and when you place it first, you'll have the option to either create a new guild or align it to any of the guilds you are already a part of. You can be, the patch notes actually says you can be a member of up to 5 guilds, but as you can see here, I've made all the way up to 10 guilds, so I'm not sure which one is going to be the final number. However, each guild can also have up to 8 factions. So if we can have up to 10 guilds, each with 8 factions each, that is essentially 90 guilds right there that you can be a part of. That's a little bit crazy, but pretty interesting all the same. So you can either come over here and create a new guild. The guild does need to have a unique name, but you can also have a guild tag that will appear in front of players' names that has to be anywhere from 2 to 5 characters and does not have to be unique. So you could have it as some kind of abbreviation of the guild name, and yeah, pretty awesome. To make a faction, you can come down here and click on a guild that's already existing. You can either make a new control for that guild. So once you join a guild, you could take a book of your own and place it inside of your own beacon and have your very own guild control for that guild, which will allow you to do all sorts of cool things like donate coins or disperse things or just manage the guild in general. So the guild is not tied to the book. You can make a guild, destroy the book immediately, and then when you replace a new book, you'll be able to pick it out of this list. So let's go ahead and do a new faction, and you can type in any faction name you want. It doesn't have to be unique from my understanding. So how about Builders? Oh yeah, and there cannot be any spaces, which kind of throws me off a lot of the time. So go ahead and confirm that. And now we have Defending Guild Builders. So pretty awesome. You got some coin information here. Here are some members. For all intents and purposes, a faction is a guild essentially inside of a guild. So it has all of the functionality of a regular guild, just that it has the parent guild name in front of it, and it cannot have factions of its own. But otherwise, they are pretty much completely identical. This can be handy for extra organization, particularly when we want only certain people to have permissions to certain areas instead of just all guild areas uniformly. So that is pretty awesome. And speaking of permissions, there is also mention of guild locks. Basically, locks are currently controlled at the beacon level. However, in the coming releases, there's going to be some extra functionality or permissions added that will allow basically guild locks that can be managed at a guild level. So that will be pretty awesome too. But let's come over to this guild. So taking a look at this guild control, of course we have this overview. So right here we can change the guild name. We can also enable auto join requests. So how people join a guild is they'll come up to your guild control, interact with it, and they can then request to join your guild. Once they have requests, you can come over here and see request to join guild. So this guy requested, I can either accept or reject him. Let's go ahead and accept him. And in a moment, there we go, he pops down here, and now I can award him all sorts of different types of permissions. So right here is essentially a mirror to the beacon control. So we have builder, worker, and engineer, works exactly like the regular beacon controls. However, this is for the entire guild basically. So now you can go over to your beacon and interact with it and basically align it to the guild, and then you can actually turn over control to that beacon to the guild, which these guild permissions will then supersede the permissions set to the beacon. So the permissions will be settled at the guild level rather than the individual beacon level. So that is pretty awesome. So we can give them all sorts of different permissions. So that is the same as giving them all the beacon permissions for all of the guild controlled beacons. Then over here we have coin controller, buff controller, and then membership controller, and they're all pretty self-explanatory in the name. So coin controllers, as the name implies, can control coins in the guild. So you can come over here to this coin. As you can see, you can pay all members or just a particular category. So each one of these is a category. So here we have just guild members or operatives. So there you go. These are all your controllers. There's the controllers, and then executive is kind of like a second in command, and then director is the highest level of permission. There can be more than one director of the guild. So, but however, once you award the director permission, you cannot unaward it. So it's up to the director themselves to essentially step down from that role. So to give a little bit more information on the guild executive and director, so the executive can assign the permissions for everything below it essentially, and the guild director is the only one that can assign who is the executive. So the director oversees the executive, and the executive can oversee everybody below him. And of course, the director has ultimate control over everything. There are no restrictions for the director. So that's kind of that in a nutshell. So you might be wondering how coin ever makes it into the guild. Basically, once you're over here at the overview, you can come down to your membership, which is right here. You can see your own permissions to the guild. And right here, there is a donate coin to this guild button. So you can click on this, and just like a request basket, you can enter in however many coins you want. You can see your current coinage right there. You can also give coin directly to a particular character by simply going over to members, coming down to that character, and as you can see right here, give coin to player. So you're not simply limited to giving coins to an entire group of players. Over here you can see all of the beacons that are aligned or controlled by the guild, and you have your standard options right there. And then finally we have factions over here. This is the Defending Guild Builders faction I just created a little while ago. As you can see, you have options to transfer coins either to or from the faction, so you can actually pull coins out of a faction as well as give it to them, as well as transferring Endeavor to and from the faction. So Endeavor is a new resource that is generated essentially automatically by all of your characters that are aligned to that particular guild. So while you can be a member of more than one guild, you do have to pick essentially a primary guild. So right here you can see all of the guilds I'm a part of. Here's all the ones I've made. And you have to pick one of them to be your primary guild. Whichever one's your primary guild, for every 100 experience you earn, you will give that, or you will earn for that guild, 1 Endeavor. So if you're curious how much Endeavor your guild has, you can come over here to Overview and you can see the Endeavor listed right here. Endeavor is used along with coins in order to fuel the new guild buff system. Okay, so originally I was going to show you just through the crafting interface what the guild machines are and what they do, but it is a new day and a new patch, and yeah, now the guild machines are no longer crashing my main account, so I can show off using, well, the place that has all the cool guild machines. So this is one of the guild machines right here. This is, let's see here, the Grapple and Run Helix, and yeah, that animation is just amazing. You can get a better look at it over here. Yeah, it's got that really nice gold and dark color. I guess that's kind of like a dark gray. That is pretty amazing. So when they're active, they're spinning like that. When they're inactive, then they're all straight and just kind of slowly revolving. Both looks pretty awesome. And depending on the strength of the buff determines how tight and fast it spins. So if we come over here, we can see that this lesser buff is, well, not as tight, not as fast. So that is pretty awesome, at least for like aesthetic purposes. Let's jump over to the workbench. As you can see, all of the guild things are well made in the workbench. And since we're here, let's jump down to this guild control. As you can see, it's not much different than crafting maybe a refinery. It's a little bit of precious alloy, a little bit more expensive in tech components, but those are pretty darn easy to find. So yeah, guild controls are pretty simple to make, as well as pretty much all of the guild buff machines. Surprisingly, they are pretty easy to make. Just some tech remnants, Viatal blood. I mean, it does take a decent amount of each, but the materials aren't that crazy. There are kind of different ranks or strengths or whatever to guild machines, so some of the fancier ones like this defeat insurance are a little bit more complicated to make, kind of ranking up there with maybe making a few power coils or advanced power coils, but still, especially for a guild mounting a joint effort, these are pretty easy to make. But taking a look at these individually, right off the bat, we're going to have 4 guild buffs available. They want to be a little bit careful about what they actually implement and how they do it. They don't want to like introduce something that completely unbalances the game essentially, and then have to like take it back and make people unhappy. So they're going to be rolling out new guild buffs gradually over the next several releases. But right up front, we get Defeat Insurance Helix. This is the most advanced one currently, basically, and it, well, reduces the defeat penalty. We also have a Builder's Helix, which increases chisel durability and block placement speed. So particularly that chisel durability will be quite handy for builders. Grapple and Run Helix for those crazy hunters that want to grapple across the world instead of running or walking. Pretty easy to make, just some stones, refined gold, tech components, hopper eyes. So nothing too hard. And then finally we have Lava Protection, which is going to be a godsend for miners. So this will give you upwards of 75% lava damage reduction. So that is just pretty crazy. I literally can go swimming in lava. It's insane. And jumping over to one of these guild machines, this is one of the more expensive ones, but while they're pretty simple to craft, fueling them is a little bit of a different story. So each guild machine acts as a guild buff interface for that guild, basically. So if the guild machine is inside of a guild aligned beacon, then those machines will naturally align to the guild itself. So you can use pretty much any guild machine to manage your guild buffs. So right up top, we have 3 slots for 3 different buffs. Click on it to either cancel, get some more information about what it actually does. If you don't have permission to mess with the guild buffs, you won't be able to cancel or start any buffs naturally. I think you can still look, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But yeah, and then down below is the information for the actual Helix itself. And so this one is Defeat Insurance. This is the highest tier one currently available, and therefore it's also the most expensive. So you can see, much like single, bulk, and mass crafting, we have an improved super and mega. There's actually 5 different ranks that a guild buff could take on. However, each guild buff only has 3, and the ranks will be kind of varied. So you kind of have to pick and choose, because you can only have 1 of each rank. So you can't have 2 mega buffs, you can't have 2 super. So you kind of have to pick and choose, like, oh, well, I already have a mega, I guess I'll take the super of this version, and then maybe an improved or minor of another one that I want. So right here, this is the Grapple is a mega, the Lava is a super, and let's see, what would be the other one? Maybe the Build. Yeah, so yeah, I cannot take this one because it's super and I already have a super. Plus I don't have enough coins. But I can do an improved. So let's go ahead and do this improved. This is going to give us 30% more chisel durability and block placement speed. So this might be a little bit crazy. Let's see here, we need to put it in slot 2. So you do have to determine which slot it's going to go into, otherwise it's going to replace. Let's go ahead, activate that. So very nice. Now we have all 3 guild buffs that we can have. And coming down here, you can see that the cost is scaled to the strength of the buff. So we come over here to super, that's more expensive, upwards of 80,000. These do last 1 week, so it's not too bad really, but then the most expensive is 160 coins. The guild endeavor is really kind of minor. 2,000 guild endeavors, equivalent to 1 person getting a level 50 plus. So as long as you have a semi-active group of guild members, the endeavor I don't see being much of an issue. But as you can see, this will reduce the defeat penalty upwards of 50% for members, so actually theoretically, so if you had that buff along with this defeat penalty epic, it either would bump it down to 25% or might completely remove it altogether. Kind of depends if the bonus gets kind of multiplied together or if it's additive, or I guess in this case subtractive. But yeah, that would be kind of interesting to figure out if you could completely nullify the defeat penalty. And certainly that would help out with endeavor generation, I suppose, but then again, I don't see endeavor being much of an issue, unless maybe, I guess they could add other uses for endeavor. That would be kind of cool if you could use it for other things. I'm not sure what you could use it for, but yeah. Okay, so now that we have this builder's buff enabled, let's see just how fast we can place blocks. I foresee this being insanely fast, so oh my goodness. What? Can we even place 1 block at a... No, okay, I'm placing 2 blocks. Oh, I actually got 1 to place. So, yeah, I could see, like, maybe when you start to place a block, it starts off slowly and then speeds up, because this is... I mean, it's pretty cool for quickly placing blocks, but you'd almost need a way to either turn it off or, like I said, have it gradually speed up as you use it. That is pretty insane. So lava damage is based off of a percentage, so how much damage you take is determined by how much health you have, but it should essentially kill you in the same amount of time no matter what your HP is. So we can come over here and basically take a dip. And yeah, look at that. I can just like maybe even just drink a heal over time potion and just go for a swim basically. In fact, I think I'll try that out. Okay, so I just grabbed some mega healing brews. These heal over time. Let's see here, I think it's every 5 seconds they heal. Oh, wow, okay, so, yeah, you just like, yeah. Oh, is it gonna keep up? Is it gonna keep up? It should, yeah. Okay, so we can just kind of wade across the lava as long as we have something to heal. Of course, it's really slow to swim in lava, but I wonder, is there anything... I don't know, the visibility is so poor. Oh, wow, you like hardly even sink. That is crazy. Let's see here, this potion's gonna last for 1 minute. This is insane. Let's see here, yeah, okay, the buff is still going. What? There's leaves underwater, look at that. Oh yeah, I guess I do still have to worry about drowning. Yeah, I wasn't thinking about drowning. Wow, okay, so that is kind of impressive, but anyway, back to the subject at hand. So that is the lava protection buff. The other one is, or my other favorite is actually the movement speed and grapple range. The movement speed is only, what, 0.6 meters per second, which does make a difference, but then the grapple length is increased by 25 meters, which is insane. So I actually have, of course, the guild buff as well as Grapple Mastery, so that gives this copper grapple upwards of 50 meters of range. So let's see here, it looks like, okay, so I can even reach that far. That is crazy. With a copper grapple. This grapple is not forged or anything. Let's see here, where is it? Yeah, so that is pretty insane. If you pull out something that is forged, then it is true insanity. Basically, if you can see it, you can grapple it. That's kind of... Okay, so right, perfect. I'm like right at the limit, so I mean, that's just insanity. So that pretty much covers all of the guild buffs and what they do. One other thing we need to cover is how factions interact with the guild buff system. So this is a guild machine inside of a faction beacon, and you can see here are the 3 buffs from the parent guild. So this one is actually being overridden by this one by the faction. So you can see right here, this is in the buff 1 slot, but then this little arrow and then this one is highlighted. This is the one that's actually coming from the faction. So I could replace these other 2 buffs if this faction wasn't actually interested in block placement speed or the lava protection. I probably should have planned this out a little bit better because it kind of looks like I have 2 of the same type of buffs. So I'm assuming these don't stack together because that would be a little bit of insanity. So if you come over to character menu, you can see that in addition to menu and friends, there's also a new guild tab. So up here you can see what your current primary guild is, and any of these you can click on at any time, such as this faction right here, and make this your primary guild. So unfortunately this isn't working, but it does pop up this little warning message saying that you're basically going to lose your buffs from your current primary guild, and that you might not even get the buffs from your next primary guild until they are restarted or refreshed. It does say that you will only benefit from guild buffs that are activated after you have joined your new primary guild. So I don't know if that means after you set it as your primary guild, or that you only get buffs if they were started after you joined or are a member of that guild. So that needs a little bit of testing, but I can click yes, set my primary guild, and unfortunately for the time being nothing happens. I can understand them not wanting you to just switch your primary guild, left and right to get certain buffs, but at the same time that would be really nice to, oh, I'm going to go build, let's switch over to the builder faction, and then vice versa for other activities. So that about wraps it up, at least for the basic functionality of guilds. One thing that has been introduced because of the guild system is basically guild settlements, which you can view this as a way of preserving your settlement from somebody else coming in and essentially taking it over. So if we come over to this beacon, you can see that there's actually kind of 2 settlements listed in the settlement details down below. So we have the Defenders settlement, which is right here, and they have, as you can see, the name up here as the settlement. However, it's located in the Aggressors settlements, or the Aggressor Guild, basically. So what I did here is I did a little experiment. I set up this settlement with a pile of diamond behind there to make it a settlement. I came over here and I made another settlement that was going to take this one over and made an even bigger pile of diamond, and then came over here and absorbed this whole settlement. It was all part of that one over there. I then plopped down and made a guild, aligned this with the guild, and it separated this settlement out from the one over there. So in other words, I was able to regain my identity. This will, however, make your settlement look like the warden is the guild instead of yourself, but I suppose you could just use your own player name as the guild name as long as it's not already taken. So once I was able to separate this settlement out from the aggressor, I wanted to see what would happen if the aggressor basically did the same thing, made his own guild, and then tried to take over the settlement again. And basically it didn't work. The aggressor is still his settlement, and the defender is still this settlement over here. So as you can see here, here's the defending guild, and it says that it's located in this aggressor settlement right here. And there you go, defending, aggressor, and then there's just kind of this random beacon over here. So one way to look at this is that you can have essentially your own neighborhood with its own name, but then it's still going to be a part of the larger settlement or city of the area. Whoever has the controlling prestige of the overall settlement can set the name to that. So here the defending guild actually managed to out prestige the aggressor guild, so now they can change the overarching name for the entire settlement. However, this really doesn't do a whole lot. You'll still see these individual settlement names up here. The only place you really see this is if you go to places, settlements, and then look at this defender's name right here, and you can see that it's located inside this other settlement. That's really the only place you ever see this, so it's kind of like bragging rights, I suppose. It doesn't really do a whole lot, but you can brag about it. And along with the guild control and all of the guild stuff, naturally the beacons need a little bit of an overhaul, some of which actually adds some amazing quality of life features. But as you can see right here, there is a guild alignment section, so I can click on this. Right now I've unaligned the beacon, so now the aggressor guild or settlement has taken over this settlement, and so right here I can click align this beacon to a guild. It gives me all sorts of different options based on all the guilds that I'm a part of. Let's go ahead and do this defending guild or defending settlement again, and after X amount of seconds the settlement will eventually update and this will become its own settlement once again. You can also come down here and allow this guild to control this beacon. That means that anybody with the guild permissions for building and crafting and all of that stuff, basically these permissions right here, but for the guild, will be able to do that in this beacon. So it basically becomes community property, and as such it gives you this nice warning screen right here. Are you sure you want people to be able to walk off with your stuff, essentially, or that you want to dedicate this for community use? However, this should be a absolutely invaluable resource for anybody that has, like, say, a lot of beacons and want to be able to just give it permissions to an entire group of people, like, say, family members, or you're running a portal network and you just want to, like, here's access to all of the portal hubs, go maintain them, sort of thing. So, and there we go. Right there we got a little system message saying that Jiivita has set their beacon and has the beacon name to be controlled by the guild, basically. So of course there is an option to remove this. The owner of the beacon always maintains absolute control over the plots in the beacon. They can unalign it anytime that they want to. And let's see here, we can come down here and there we go. We can change the name of the settlement back to whatever name we had it before. So what, defending settlement name. But the other additional options, well, is a whole new tab for options over here. And one of my favorites, let's see, where is it? Delete beacon. Delete beacon, retrieve all plots, and remove fuel. So with one click, or hopefully several clicks actually, you'll be able to pull up all of your plots and get rid of a beacon. No longer do you have to individually remove every single little plot to be able to rip everything up. So that will be pretty amazing right here. Yeah, we can change the color of the plot, hologram type things. So this right here, it was green. I kind of switched it over to a yellowish looking thing. So no longer do you have to put a piece of gleam in there. You can just come in here. There you go. Now you can really see what's going on. So very nice. So if you're having trouble figuring out which plots are yours, now you can pick from the full 255 colors that you can choose from. So quite nice indeed. Let's see here. I'm curious what black looks like. Okay, well, it looks pretty black, but very nice. And warping status, allow players to warp into your beacon, can be used if you own shop stands, markets, or similar public areas. So okay, very nice. So it says players cannot warp into your beacon. Now you can click allow and it says players can warp into your beacon. So that was a little bit confusing previously how you did it, because it just said the button. So it was like, is it don't allow when I click on it, or is it allow when I do click on it? So that is cleared up. Very nice. Right here you can set the master control, so if you wanted to plop down a new beacon, you could change it to the master beacon control to be able to remove the old one. As well as the option to set this as your home. So very nice. All of these cool options are right over here in this nice tidy little tab. Moving along, naturally, a guild is going to demand a better way to communicate in-game and even a little bit outside of game. They did mention in their roadmap that there would be a way to set up to receive emails based off of either notifications or private messages. That isn't quite all set up and working just yet, but there is quite a bit of the groundwork already laid. So right here, this used to be filters over here, but it's been renamed to channels, and that is essentially what they are. So here is the all, it just has everything unfiltered. Right here is the world, and this is essentially all of the chat we're already used to. So this has say, shout, whispers, which I think were previously called PMs. But you can come over here and click on this options right here and see all the different things. So we have our say, shout, whisper, so that's all of the world talking. Whispers are instant, and now we have two new things, which are private messages and guild. These are not exactly instant, these are channels, and they retain a history up to 30 days, along with the Boundless channel, which is essentially system messages. You cannot talk into the Boundless channel. This is just Boundless's way of giving you notification. So Boundless, private messages, and guild channels are all pulled on a periodic basis. If you're focused on one particular channel in particular, it's pulled every 5 seconds or checked every 5 seconds to see if there's new messages. However, if you're on the all, then it will check the 10 oldest channels every 30 seconds. So if you have up to 100 different channels, that could potentially take upwards of 5 minutes to be able to update all of those channels, since it only does 10 every 30 seconds. So might be a little bit careful opening up just an exorbitant number of channels, as it will take you a while to check them. Also, there is a handy notification system allowing you to quickly see where you have unread messages. As you can see all of them well in the all channel. However, you can come down here, I can see I have 9 system or Boundless notifications, 5 private messages, and I can even open it up and see from which person. And then over here, and the same thing for guilds. The one thing that I noticed that's a little bit inconvenient is that you log in defaulted to the all, which then automatically counts everything as read. So you basically have to kind of scroll up and try to figure out all the stuff that maybe you've missed. So I kind of would like the notifications to at least persist, especially for the private channels, since you might end up getting quite a few private conversations going on with different people. But just my 2 cents. Coming back over to private messaging, an amazing quality of life feature is that you can actually see your messages from all of your characters all at once. So right here, Test 210 sent a message to Zoba, which is one of my other characters on this particular account, and so I can actually see and even reply using Zoba's name. So that is pretty amazing right there. You don't have to constantly switch between your characters just to check their messages. And last but certainly not least, Footfall has seen some renovations. Basically, the cooldown on when a player could generate footfall for your beacon was kind of not right. So now it's the correct 24-hour cooldown, and this should help a lot with generating footfall for your beacons. The requirements for generating footfall have been modified a little bit in that now you need a bare minimum of 10,000 prestige to generate any footfall whatsoever. This is to discourage people from placing down an empty beacon and then just leaving it there just to generate what measly little bit of footfall it would actually generate. Previously, low prestige beacons would generate a little bit of footfall just at a reduced rate if they were under, say, the 10,000 or 5,000, whatever the previous limit was. Another change is that footfall payments have now been essentially front-loaded from my understanding. So what this means is that the first several visitors, I don't know what the number is exactly, but your first visitors will have a higher payout, and then it will basically be scaled down based on the number of visitors in the last 24 hours. What effect this should actually have is that quieter, less frequented areas should generate more coin than they have in the past, whereas areas that are quite busy should be about the same. So this is not a nerf aimed at portal networks, rather this is a buff aimed at the quieter areas that generally in the past have not generated very much footfall. There's also an interesting sentence in the patch notes that reads, "Footfall payments will now be granted whenever the user enters a beacon of a given player in a settlement after 1 day, but at a reduced amount unless the player has not visited a beacon of that player in the settlement for 5 days." So that's a perfectly kind of convoluted way of saying that, but basically my understanding is that your frequent flyers or frequent visitors will pay out a lesser amount than brand new visitors that haven't been to your settlement in, say, the past 5 days. So drawing new players to your settlement will have a higher reward, whereas the people that are visiting it every single day will have a somewhat reduced payout. I don't know by how much. It might be quite minor, or it could be more significant. We really don't know. It's not listed in the notes. Okay, well that covers essentially the big 3 things that were in this patch. Naturally, there's lots of bug fixes and other types of tweaks and improvements. One of the notable bug fixes was that there should be less issues with the profanity filter in the color chat codes or the color text codes. So that will be quite nice to be able to use the color codes a little bit more liberally without worrying about triggering the profanity filter. Another cool thing is that warp locations are now sorted alphabetically, so it'll be a little bit easier to find that one particular location that you're looking for as long as you know what it's called. And also there is a quite lengthy list of known issues, so if you're running into a problem, you might check out the patch notes to see if it's a known issue. Some of the things include that the guild buff machines don't have the proper animation whenever they're active. Several system notifications or the Boundless channel notifications aren't currently implemented or working correctly, as well as some sort of indicator for new or unread messages aren't exactly showing up properly. Maybe that has to do with the all channel basically counting everything as already read, or maybe there's another indicator that's supposed to pop up saying I have unread messages. So hopefully all of that will be fixed fairly soon, and that this will be out for us to play around with on live servers. But anyway, I think that covers everything pretty well. This was Jiivita. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you want to see more like this, and if there's anything you didn't like, please let me know down below. Also, if you like my channel, want to get cool perks, check out my Patreon page. Until next time, peace.